working partner Marines. You're going to come back. You're going to grab the rest of your trash and gear. You're going to load up on that bus. You will go to the back. You will fill in every single seat. I do not care about you sitting by your friends. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Move.
These are the students coming from MCRD, whether it be straight off of boot leave or coming off of recruiter's assistance, to get them processed up to SOI for training. Once they go to training, they're either going to go to Infantry Training Battalion or Marine Combat Training Battalion. The first part of the process is down here at the USO. I come down here on a weekly basis whenever we have a pickup, and what we do is we distinguish the Marines from MCT and ITB. 0300s going to ITB, anyone else going to Marine Combat Training Battalion.
So the Marines are currently at supply, getting issued everything they're going to need and required for the training of the 29-day training cycle. It's very important that they receive it for, first off, they're going to be conducting live fire training. So some of the PPE is required for live fire ranges aboard Camp Pendleton. The rest of the gear is cold weather gear, or currently we are in warm weather gear, so they're going to be receiving hydration systems as well to keep the Marines hydrated throughout the physical training.
So currently the Marines are conducting their land navigation performance examination. So what they'll be doing today is they have their points, which are just grid points that you would find on a map. From there, they plotted their points. They found azimuths, which is the data that they're going to be using in order to put in their compass in order to go from point A to point B, as well as they have found their distance from point A to point B. Being able to find those 5 points, they need to achieve 4 out of 5 in order to pass. So we buddy them up, they go out there, they have a scorecard, and then they execute that scorecard, which has their grids, has their azimuths that they've already found, as well as their map, and they'll go out there and they'll actually conduct the land nav portion of their performance examination, where they test their skills to be able to mitigate going through the terrain, as well as being able to find a point that's out there on terrain that they're not really familiar with.
Build upon that foundation and further their knowledge and skills towards tactical field care. So we started off with a classroom environment. From there, we have the practical application, which goes into carrying, doing regular TFC, tourniquet drill, and a couple other things to enhance their skill from what they have and learn from boot camp. It's important because it's definitely going to help them out once they, leave the country, being deployed or go anywhere in the world. And it also helps them on the civilian side, just in case they need it. As far as COM in here at MCT, it's their first time being introduced to COM. So we started off with the same thing with classes, platform instructing. They're gonna get about an hour and a half to the classroom, introduce them to the radio system. And then once that's finished, we have a practical application. It's about 3 hours. They first get in touch with their COM gear. After that, they'll call up using a certain type of format that they were taught in boot camp, like the salute report, and then we introduce them to the pause rep, sit rep, spot rep, and all these report that's pertaining and used in the fleet.
We don't just kick right off into the 15K evaluated hike. We have to stepping stones. You gotta crawl, walk, run. So we prep them, teach them how to adjust their pack, how to pack their pack, and we do the 5K so they understand how much that weight feels on their back, and they get used to it and they get conditioned to that weight, and then we up it to the 10K, and then finishing with that 15K.
We came out here, we're doing patrolling 2 practical application. So within patrolling 2, we got IA drills, contact left, right, front, and rear. Basically setting up hasty ambushes, going over crossing danger areas. They're individual actions within a patrol. So doing like cycle of the infantry, marine, stuff like that. That's basically what we're doing for patrolling 2. These guys can literally fill the billet of any infantryman at any time. So that's why every Marine needs to know these skills for patrolling. Be able to patrol in those environments.
So MOUT is military operations in urban terrain. So it's us actually going out into different environments like Iraq, Afghanistan, where it's heavily populated with buildings and so on and so forth. So MOUT is our ability to actually fight in an urban environment and be able to go out there and put our boot on the enemy's throat. The training consists of them doing exterior movement, which is them actually moving from building to building on the outside of the building, being able to cover danger areas, pass off those danger areas so that their buddy can pass. Then it consists of them doing room clearing, which we do a two-man room clearing, and that's them and their buddy actually learning how to make entry into that building, into that room, clear it out, and identify any threats that are in that building.
It's extremely important. These Marines never know when they're going to find themselves in a combat situation where they're going to be issued an M67 fragmentation grenade and be expected to kill the enemy with it. It's a big confidence booster. It's the first time Marines will hold one, control it, and then employ it to destroy the target. They will receive a demonstration of the smoke on our incendiary grenades, followed by practical application, which includes proficiency of 3 M69 fragmentation grenades. Once proficiency is shown by the combat instructor, they move on their way to the live fire range to throw an M67 fragmentation grenade. Marines will view one through the tower, observe one, and they'll move on to grenade issue. At that point, they will go into the pits instructed by an instructor, and they will throw the M67 fragmentation grenade.
The 10K, which is a little bit, of course, further distance. Now we're going over a little bit harder terrain. Navigating from SOI up here to range 706, where they're going to conduct their live fire. And then all that is in preparation, conditioning them for their graduation requirement for the 15K hike back to SOI. And that's really here to introduce these Marines to what the Marine Corps is going to have them do out in the fleet. If they have to maneuver anywhere over long distance, carrying that load.
Range week starts off with a 10K movement out to the range. So we'll move the whole company out there. Once we get to the range and we actually start conducting our training, the first thing that goes down is the actual table shoots, which they first conduct table 5 and table 6. Your table 6 is your combat marksmanship range day from 25 meters and in. And then table 6 is the same range except it's at night. So they're using their PVS 14s on their Kevlar and then their PEG 15s. After your table 5 and 6, then the students conduct tables 3 and 4, which is your unknown distance shoots. So table 3 is the day shoot, and then table 4 is the night shoot, and they shoot on steel targets. After that, they go into shooting 203s and your 240s. Before they actually do the live fire, we conduct ISMIT line procedures. So it actually gets them hands-on. They understand how to actually do it before they go into live fire. So they understand the weapon system and how it's gonna feel. Gets a little bit more realistic before they actually do the realistic shoot. After that, then they conduct, the last range they do is your LFAM, your live fire and maneuver range, where they conduct buddy rushes and consolidate on the enemy objective. After that, that's pretty much all of range week, all of the ranges, and then the next day they conduct a 15K evaluated foot march back from the range back to Fox Company.
So BSRE is basically a culminating event where we just kind of put all the things that we train them, such as patrolling, defense, a little bit of TFC we throw in there, radio communication. We just kind of throw everything together that we train them in and put it all together and see how they actually do it. This is the first time of them actually seeing the instructors acting as squad leaders as well, whereas in the past, all we did was train them, teach them. Now those instructors are actually acting as squad leaders, so they could actually see how it's done, see how it is to have a Marine lead them, which I think is very important for the BSRE. Here, during the BSRE, we actually expect them to, react to contact, or react to an IED, or react to a casualty. And we train them to react a certain way throughout, the 3 weeks that leads up to this point. And sometimes they react well, sometimes they don't. But either way, they learn something from it, which I think is really important. The biggest challenge is just being out here and operating for 36 hours in a row. They're not getting all the sleep that they need. We tell them chow's continuous, where it's no longer just, hey, sit down and eat chow. We give them their MRE and be like, hey, whenever you have a chance, eat. You know, you don't need to be reminded to eat, which I think is important. Something as simple as that. You know, whenever you're actually out there in the field, at least, you know, these entry-level Marines never are exposed to something like that. They'll be like, oh wait, so we just eat whenever we want. Just something as simple as that is good exposure, good training for them to whenever they hit the fleet. They're tired, they're going to be hungry. You know, we're going to be moving a lot. They're going to be continuously doing something. Even if they're standing by as QRF, which is quick reaction force. So they could be reacting to possible casualties or whatever. When they're in the holes, you know, especially at night, we go ahead and go 50%, where we let one Marine just provide security and one Marine go to bed. It's good training for them to actually see how it's done. You know, we've talked about it for the past 3 weeks. They've maybe done a little bit of research, and you know, in boot camp they've heard about it, but now they're actually seeing it and doing it, and the instructor's actually showing them how it's done.
They joined the Marine Corps and they became Marines, and then when they got here, they learned what it actually meant to be a Marine. Now they move from there, they see their families on the parade deck, and they go into their MOS school with the requisite knowledge. Yeah, my job is going to be an engineer, but I'll always be called on to be a Marine rifleman. I think the battalion does a very good job of preparing the Marine for that combat environment, and it really does that because of the battalion center of gravity, the combat instructor. Combat instructor generally comes from the operating forces. He's done 1 or 2 combat deployments, and he has the requisite knowledge of the combat skills, the common skills, from going to combat instructor school. So he takes those skills and he gets a 29-day period of intense training for these kids, so they can go forward and do great things on the battlefield.
It's vitally important that MCT remains relevant, that as doctrine emerges and changes, as TTPs evolve throughout the Marine Corps, and we accumulate lessons learned from not only the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, but also the special purpose MAGTFs, Black Sea rotational forces, those missions that we find ourselves now fighting across the realm of military operations, that we have to ensure that our younger Marines, regardless of MOS, maintain their proficiency in combat skills, basic combat skills, and that when they find themselves forward deployed and in support of the ground combat element, that they're able to survive on the battlefield and contribute as a solid member of the MAGTF team.